forsaken booth. The truth is you sadly mistaken. Proof I'm better than.
Welcome to 3countcommentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today, Smackdown, August 26th, 2022. Despite the fact that it was in my hometown of Detroit, I opted to not go. Even though I had the money and had the time. I was just kind of like, you know what? Don't feel like being around all those people today. So, I should have gone, though, maybe. Maybe, but I didn't go. So, let's get right into the news and notes. There are two notes. One note is something I didn't even bother to discuss because to me, it's pretty dumb. And I, think that people are being naive thinking this is going to be the case. WWE is not going TV 14. I mean, that should have been something that everybody with a functioning brain would have known. They're not going to go TV 14. And the reason they're not going to go TV 14 is a lot of their advertising and a lot of their sponsorships are set up for them being a PG product. I mean, they are in contracts with companies like Mattel that don't do business with mature companies. So it wasn't going to happen. It was never going to happen. I don't care who's in charge. I don't care who the CEO is. I don't care who the head of creative is. The head of creative doesn't really control, what the TV rating is going to be anyway. Now, they can maybe stretch that PG a little bit, but they're not going to go beyond a certain point without it affecting everything that they're doing on a different level. So it was never going to happen. Hate to break it to you. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, dude, but it was never going to happen. It was never on the actual menu. It was never occurring. The next note, though, is actually fairly interesting, and it sounds like something that actually would work. WWE is looking to turn the Performance Center into a tourist attraction. This is from PW Insider. It says WWE issued a survey today to fans on their mailing list, sending feedback on potential future WWE Performance Centers, including potential new markets and an additional aspect that will be open to fans touring the facility. Based on what we have heard from readers, WWE is looking into fan interest as to whether they would want to travel to visit this different concept for the WWE PC, with the idea being that beyond training talents, it would serve as a roadside attraction for fans visiting the area, perhaps being located within a mall or similar cultural hub. Think the Vegas Strip or the International Drive in Orlando. The markets listed were Atlanta, Dallas, Nashville, and Tampa. WWE sought feedback on the public attraction aspect for the future Performance Center locations that would feature, quote, interactive, immersive tour to engage deeply with WWE's brand and history. The attraction would feature, quote, unique behind-the-scenes access to state-of-the-art WWE Training Center with live views into the training rings, weight rooms, video rooms, nutrition centers, lounge spaces, and other unique training elements. Visitors will be able to watch active WWE athletes training, including rehearsing and practicing in the ring, as well as working out and recovering. It continues. In addition to this unique peek into WWE superstar training, the attraction would also include a one-of-a-kind tour highlighting WWE history, memorabilia, superstars, and famous matches. The tour could be comprised of a variety of elements, including a museum, Hall of Fame style attraction that includes unique, immersive, and interactive elements, as well as fun physical activities, visual experiences, and personal connection to legends and personnel. Interesting. Now, I actually do like this idea. I like the idea of the PC. Now, I am also a believer that some things shouldn't be seen. Like, you don't want to turn the wrestlers into goddamn zoo animals. But at the same time, you do. Sometimes football players and basketball players have open training. If you can go and watch, you can go watch some scrimmage and stuff like that. It's not too bad. So I think that it would be okay on that level, but it sounds like it'll be expensive. If they're gonna do like a Hall of Fame style thing where there's gonna be memorabilia like Andre Giant's boots and Undertaker's jackets and stuff like that in there, then yeah, man, they're probably gonna charge you a grip to for you to get that close Well, depending on how close it is, and to go have a walkthrough. Oh goodness. Now I don't know about the whole you can watch them rehearse stuff. I don't know about that. That's probably not a good idea. And it's just we don't need to kill the mystique of wrestling even more. So maybe not so much of that whole you can watch them rehearse, but like watch them train. Yeah. Watch them in the gym, maybe watch them run some drills. All right, cool. Have some memorabilia there. That sounds nice. A quick tour, depending on how big the building is. I remember when we got a tour through the new Detroit Pistons facility. It's on, oh boy, don't get me the line. But it's a new Detroit Pistons facility. They had the NBA championship rings in there. Not the rings, but the trophies. So that was fun. We didn't meet any Pistons because they weren't in there yet. They had really literally just finished it. So there weren't any basketball players in there yet. But we got to see some of the cool memorabilia that they have, like jerseys and, written letters that guys had written, of course. There's history stuff based off, pictures of past Pistons and, what seasons they played in and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of fun, fan-friendly stuff for sports teams. So I support it from that idea. I think that the PC opening itself up to something like that would be great. But you also don't want to turn it into a distraction where now you got all of these talent trying to work out, and here comes some gawking grandma or some little kid, who insists on getting in the way. We don't really need that, But I like it, generally speaking. All right, so let's get into SmackDown. It was a fun show. Not a great show, but a fun show. No Liv Morgan on this show at all. We'll talk about that later. But there was no Liv Morgan here. Maybe she was in the second taping. So I think that's probably why I didn't go. Is that they were taping 2 episodes of SmackDown tonight, and I was like, if I go see SmackDown, I got to get there early. Then I'll have to sit through one full episode of SmackDown and then watch another one, which means it would kill me watching SmackDown next week because then I've already seen that episode, So I don't know. And then I wouldn't be able to do a review without doing spoilers, and some people don't like spoilers, so whatever. But maybe I'll go to SmackDown next time. All right, anyway, let's get back into the show. Ricochet defeats Happy Corbin. There was a bum-ass Corbin chant. One thing I've noticed is that since Triple H took over, there's been some pep in Ricochet's step. He's been a little bit more confident, a lot more confident. And a little bit more comfortable, too. It seems like Triple H kind of took the weight off of him. Took the pressure off of him a little bit. I'm not so sure I like that, but, whatever helps, I guess. It's also, been a very bad thing for Baron Corbin because he has nothing good has come out of Triple H being in power for him yet. He's just been a punching bag. I mean, he was a punching bag already, but for somebody like Ricochet, come on. Are you serious? But I'm really interested in where they go with Ricochet. I mean, do you double back to the Intercontinental title? I mean, what are we doing here? What's the point of him winning all these matches and not, cutting promos, building a character and stuff like that? They're trying to get him over by doing flips. Typical Triple H, indie stuff. They spent some time with Pat McAfee absolutely roasting Corbin, using the Bobby Heenan cam, calling him a bum. And it said that the universe is dumping on Corbin. So that's something. But as I was saying about Ricochet, it seems like a lot of people have become a little bit more confident with Triple H in charge. But it also seems like there were some people who were on the edge who Triple H had just kind of decided, you know what, not interested. Corbin seemed to be one of those guys. Lacey Evans hasn't shown up on this show since Triple H took over. I heard she's a healthy scratch, too. I don't think she's actually injured. There's maybe some other people that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head right now. I think, Veer and guys like that on Raw who invested way too much time in to a degree. and now we're not getting anything out of him. But at least Triple H is going to get his guys on TV. So when Hit Row absolutely bombed last week, they say, well, we'll double down. This time we'll make sure they can't bomb by putting them with the Street Profits. So Hit Row is hanging out with the Street Profits. They do a little bit of a stare down to kind of tease some tension. Then they bond over money and smoke and decide that they're going to hang out. You know, because they all like money, they all like to smoke, so they're going to go hang out. All right, that's fine. Later in the show, Maximum Male Models are having a photo shoot when Hit Row's theme song starts to blast, and they're upset. Well, Max is upset. I love that he told the photographer, "What am I hiring you for? You're missing all of the good stuff." And he's standing right in front of this guy. He's standing right in front of Mansoor. What is Mansoor and Marseille? He's standing right in front of him, like really close too. And Max is just adamant that they're missing the good stuff. Anyway, he wants to do something about this party bus because the party bus is just rocking with Hit Row's theme song. I don't know why it would be Hit Row's theme song. So he wants to go do something. And Maxine volunteers, like, you know, I'll go do something. So we come back to it with a third scene. And she shows up with Los Lotharios. And at first, I thought they had pills. I'm like, why would they have pills? I told you my vision is terrible. I didn't even think about it being spray paints. I just thought about it like, are they going to beat them to death with steroids? Like, what is going to happen here? I don't know why I thought it was pills, but I just thought it was pills. Maybe I was thinking of making this more fun than it needed to be. So Maximum Male Models, they spray paint Hit Row Sucks on the bus. Magically, Hit Row popped up behind them, said, well, if it's a problem, dog, we can see you in the ring next week. I was like, oh, no. AJ, no. I'm not feeling that guy, that top dollar gentleman. Not a fan. Anyway, we find out later that's not even Hit Row's bus. It was the Street Profits bus. So the Street Profits were randomly on SmackDown for no apparent reason other than they heard positive things about Hit Row and wanted to go check it out. Found out they like money and smoke. So they like, hey, let's go hang out in our party bus. Hey, cool, yeah. So they blasting loud music, interrupting the photo shoot. And then they get their party bus spray painted. And they had 3 segments of this. I appreciate the attempt at making Hit Row interesting, but you're going to have to do a little bit more than that. I don't think Heather Shanti Theodonis said a single word since they came back. And I don't mean that silly lip sync segment that they did either. Oh yeah, he did. He introduced himself. That was about it. Outside of introducing himself, he hasn't said anything and hasn't shown anything. He's just kind of been there. You know, like that's probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea, man. You probably should, let the guy breathe a little bit. Probably should let the guy do something, Maybe wrestle matches because he's the one who can actually work. We don't really need to see more top dollar, do we? I don't. I appreciate that you want to put him in a tag team division. I do. But I don't really like it. Don't really like AJ Francis. Not a big fan of the top dollar. Or B-Fab, to be quite honest. She sucks too. Let's talk about Drew McIntyre, though. So, Drew McIntyre, they showed a bundle of vignettes for him. It was essentially, if you know the Drew McIntyre story, then you know the story of the vignettes, He wanted to wrestle ever since he was 6 years old. It came across like a mini biography. No Scott had ever joined WWE before, but he was ambitious and determined to do so. Ended up being the first Scottish wrestler ever signed to WWE. And that he was a young wrestler who worked hard and busted his ass and became a top guy everywhere he went. And then he got to WWE. He was very cocky. He thought very highly of himself. He was very immature. When things started getting rough for him, he got angry. He got frustrated. And then his family life fell apart. His mom got sick and passed away. And then he got fired. That was part 1. Part 2 featured the sort of the comeback. They didn't mention now. Well, the beautiful thing about this was the early part had a lot of footage from his young days. We got to see like really young Drew McIntyre. So that was extremely nice. You know, they went and dug up all of the footage, all the footage. For the second run, basically they just talk about how he started. He went out and gained some confidence working outside of WWE to become the leader that they wanted him to be, because his mission is to be the face of the industry that he loves. Then say he's going to take down Roman in the first UK show in 30 years, the first stadium show in 30 years, and kick Roman's head off his effing shoulders or effing body, however, whatever. Choose your poison on that one. I thoroughly enjoyed the Drew McIntyre segments. Even though I already know this story, I like that they put it on TV, so now the average person knows it too. The average Joe who watching this show, maybe they don't watch the biographies or they don't watch the Broken Skull sessions. They just watch SmackDown or Raw when it's on TV. And you're kind of like, okay, now I know a little bit more about this guy. I can empathize with him. This is a redemption story for Drew. Even though, he kind of gained his redemption upon winning the title from Brock. Nobody was there. There was no crowd. So this is a second chance at redemption. This is to finally get the monster reaction he felt like he deserved. So he worked the main event against Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn began his night hanging out with Roman Reigns. So he shows up outside of Roman Reigns' locker room. The Usos meet him there. They were impressed with his performance last week, but they reminded him that he did indeed lose. And Sami wants to see Roman. Say that maybe Roman might want to talk to him. Roman's disembodied voice, so I didn't think Roman was really going to be there, but Roman's disembodied voice yells for Sami to come in. Sami comes in, has a seat on the couch. He gets real comfortable. The Usos is looming over him like dark clouds, and especially Jay, because he's really in a bad mood. Sami has a bunch of excuses of why he lost the Fatal 4-Way match, and Roman tells him, look, you lost, but sometimes bad things happen so that we can redeem ourselves. It's so manipulative for him to say that. He then said he appreciates what Sami Zayn did last week. It was something only a member of the family would do. And now Sami Zayn is like, oh shit, I'm in. He said he needed a favor. And Sami's like, whatever you need. What do you need? He says, I need you to distract Drew McIntyre. I need you to take Drew McIntyre off focus. And Sami Zayn was like, yeah, that's what I do. I'm what do you call himself? The master strategist. I just get in his mind and I'll start dancing. I'll make a camp. And he starts to dance in the little chair, and you can see Jay over the shoulder of Sami, and the camera panned out so that you could see it. Like, that's very interesting. That, if they'd have left the camera where it was, you probably wouldn't even been able to see Jay corpsing on TV. But instead, they panned out so that you can see it. And so Jay's covering his mouth with his hand as Sami Zayn is just jigging in his chair, and Roman's just stone faced. Like, he's 100% in character. But Sami is assuring these guys that he can handle this. And but he kind of said, look, maybe I could use a little bit of help, turn it into a little bit of a bonding moment between me and the guys. And then Roman said, nah, it's got to be you. Tonight is about you. This is about you. This is your opportunity. You got to kind of prove yourself. And Sami was all for it. He's like, okay, yeah, great. That's awesome. Him and Jimmy dap up, and he goes to slap hands with Jay, and Jay's not having it. Instead, Jay kick him out of the locker room. I was like, oh boy. The jealous Jay. He's jealous. Look at this shit. All right, so later on, Sami Zayn is backstage when the Usos popped up again. Jay tells Sami that when he's wearing the Bloodline shirt, he needs to level up. But then Sami Zayn's like, look, you've been all on my back lately. What's going on, man? Like I told Roman last week. He's like, yeah, you did tell Roman stuff last week. Don't you ever talk about me behind my back again. And you need to handle your business. And Sami Zayn's like, okay, I'll handle my business. Dang, get off my back. What's wrong with you? So Sami Zayn versus Drew McIntyre. The finish was never really in doubt. I mean, Triple H is going to book this thing as logically as possible. So he's not going to have Drew lose to Sami Zayn. Besides, it only feeds Sami Zayn's story for him to lose. So he catches a Claymore kick and loses, even though the Usos came out there to distract him. And then Roman attacked Drew after the match. They seemingly beat on Drew forever after the match. I mean, they seemingly just pounded him and beat the tar out of him forever. And it just seems to never end. And then Roman put the chair over Drew McIntyre and sat in it. This is, of course, after he told Drew he's never going to get to the top of the mountain. The top of the mountain is his until he's done with it. Then after he sits down, he tells the camera, talking to the entire business, the whole industry runs on his time. And when he wants somebody to come and take it, he runs the industry. He wants somebody to come and take it. And that's the visual as we end the show. And now I think Triple H has converted seemingly the bulk of the audience into believing that Drew McIntyre is going to win the title in the UK. But I did leave out something, didn't I? Karrion Kross cut a promo after the first Drew McIntyre vignette. So he says that it was a beautiful story of redemption, but maybe it's your time, but maybe it's not. He says that at any given moment I could put my fist through the back of your head and all of your accomplishments will mean nothing. This is, of course, a threat to Drew McIntyre, and that is what I believe will occur. I believe that Drew McIntyre will get close to winning, and then Karrion Kross will cost him the title. I do not see Roman losing the belt before WrestleMania and losing it to Cody Rhodes. That's again, I went through this whole thing last week. It's just the most logical story. I know some people want to say, well, Drew's going to look like a geek if he doesn't win. 70,000 people, he's got to win. My thing is, okay, then what? He beats Roman, then what? He wrestles Kross, okay, so then what? We just beat Kross that easily too? I mean, so, but we're back to Super Drew at that point. I get it. A lot of people want him to get there now. I was, one of the few people who was on the Drew McIntyre train until, he became super boring and he was, winning 5-on-1 matches and stuff like that. But you have to think about, they do have a B plan for Drew. If he were to win, he's clearly going to be feuding with Karrion Kross. But I think that feud can happen anyway. And I think instead of trying to invest in Drew, which was already an investment that you cashed in on, building him up as the heroic champion is the right thing to do. That's what you should do for most baby faces. I just don't think it's the right time. I think, and I'm not even one of those people who think that Roman's going to be wrestling The Rock. And I hate to break it to you, but Roman shouldn't be losing to The Rock either. He should only be losing to Cody. That should be the story. Because I'm guessing that was the plan from the beginning, is that it was going to be Roman versus Cody. Now, can you have Roman do whatever it is he's going to do at WrestleMania without the belt? Well, it depends on what he's going to do without the belt. If he's not going to be dropping the belt, who is he going to be wrestling? I don't know. If he's going to wrestle The Rock at this WrestleMania, all right, maybe he does need to drop the belt then. But if he's not, then why is Drew the champion? That shouldn't matter that much. So Triple H got some people duped. Not me though. I'm not duped. I promise you that. I don't think he's going to drop that title. I don't believe it. But they did a good job with these vignettes though. These vignettes were very good. The Karrion Kross promo was also very well shot. he was up in the skybox, but it was in black and white. So it made it look very interesting. Very interesting look there. The main event stuff really delivered. The Sami Zayn storyline has been phenomenal. And of course, when it comes to the inevitable, when the bloodline turn on him, it's going to be very sad because now he feels like he's a member of the family. Roman has effectively, manipulated Sami Zayn into this role and treating him like another soldier. But he's not family. He's going to get kicked out eventually. And that's going to be so tough. But it's going to be great dramatic TV because he's likely not, he's going to be an easy patsy because he's not going to see it coming. But it's coming. And everybody but him can see it coming. And that's when you know you've done something that is pretty tremendous in terms of dramatic storytelling. When you figured it out, but you're waiting for the characters to figure it out. And you know they're going to figure it out eventually. So now we're all just on pins and needles waiting for Sami Zayn to figure out that he's not really a member of the bloodline and he's just been using them and manipulating him. And for Kevin Owens, Bubba Ray Owens, Bam Bam Owens to actually come in and make a save. Like we're waiting for that moment. And it's going to be big. And because it hasn't happened yet, I'm just thinking, when will it happen? It has to happen fairly soon, right? But we'll see. I like where they're going with this, though. This Sami Zayn as a member of the Bloodline has been absolutely excellent. All of their segments have been gold. He is so much better. And you know what? And this is the one thing that I hate to continue harping on Triple H being an authority now. This is the one thing about Vince being in control that was so much better. Just imagine if Triple H was in control of WWE when he was initially brought up. He never would have been put under any pressure to get any better at cutting promos and never would have found this character, never would have found his voice. He still might have still be around or whatever, but he'd still be like a bland, boring babyface. I mean, look at the guys that Triple H is pushing, but he's not adding anything to them, like Ricochet, like Ciampa, for Christ's sake. Like these guys, he's featuring them a lot. They're in longer matches than they probably should be in, but he's not adding anything to their characters. He's not doing character. He's doing character work on the main event guys, which is the best thing to do. If you want to invest some money, invest some time there. But eventually, you also got to get some of these mid-card guys over too. Ricochet especially. Like, we need to squeeze some juice out of this. We need to get some personality out of this fucking guy. So we need something on these dudes who Triple H insists that he likes and that he wants to push. But it seems to me that, Vince had the right idea. He took these fucking guys and saw that there was something there, but they needed to get challenged, and he did that. He challenged them and he pushed them and he made them in some ways better. They weren't just going to be confident, sitting on their laurels, doing whatever they did on the indies. He had to find something different, had to do something different. They were challenged to be different, to reinvent themselves. And Sami Zayn, he absolutely succeeded. Absolutely, he succeeded. And I'm really deeply concerned at what WWE is going to look like when Triple H starts bringing in people from NXT and saying, oh, we're not going to change your character or change your persona or change anything. Like, that's great for some people. It's great that you don't want to, the event changes Bobby Roode. That's not a good thing. But it's a good thing that he changed Alexa Bliss. It's a good thing that he, added some elements to Bianca Belair. It's, there is so much that you can add to these characters if you push the performers to want more and to want to do more. It's not, you shouldn't be able to just walk right off of, the independents into WWE without changing too much of anything. And all of a sudden, you're on SmackDown doing the same thing you were doing before. Like, I don't like that. To me, that sucks. And I like watching guys go through the learning curve. Like Danielson. The reason why people love Danielson is not just because he's a great wrestler now. Everybody knows he's a great promo now. WWE forced him into that box where he had to start talking. They even took him out of the ring all that time, and he wanted to wrestle so badly he was going to break himself into pieces in order to do it. But they forced him into a talking role where he had to get comfortable talking, where he had to get comfortable being himself. Triple H is still allowing these fucking guys to avoid promos, to avoid character work, to avoid evolving. And I don't give a fuck about how comfortable they are. If you're not getting any better, you're doing the same shit I've been seeing on this TV, or I can see watching any indie wrestling show. So hopefully Triple H, will get around to making some of these guys that he loves so much interesting for some reason. But he hadn't gotten around to it yet, especially not with Ricochet. And I guess we'll have to get there. It's the same thing with Dakota Kai and Io Sky and all of them, That's been a big problem. You got to make them interesting. You can't just throw them on TV or hook them up with a star and tell us everything is going to be fine. You got to make them interesting, And he has failed to do that. But when he fails in one area, he actually succeeds in another. So he had a last chance fatal 4-way. He didn't succeed with this because this was awful. This was awful. It was a fatal 4-way match: Xia Li and Shotzi versus Nikki Ash and Doudrop versus Sonya Deville and Natty versus Tamina and Dana Brooke. The match was sloppy and the match was short. Nikki Ash fell down doing an Irish whip. She got Irish whipped and tripped and fell. I just looked at that and I was like, you know what? Bad omen. I just walked away. When I came back, they were on the top rope, but I had no idea what on earth they were doing. I'm like, this is going to end terribly. Nikki Ashton was suplexed off the top rope onto the pile. Then her foot got caught underneath her, and it bent in a really ugly way. Seconds later, Sonya Deville rolled her into the ring and pinned her. And I was like, okay, everybody was pissed because the match was clearly cut short. But it was seemingly cut short for a reason. Nikki Ash was apparently injured in this match. I'm not mad that it was a short match, because why should it be a long one? None of these people should even be in this position, so. This led to the match later on, but before that, there was a promo. So Sonya Deville and Natalya was talking about how great they are and how they're going to win the tag team titles and all that stuff. Behind them, in the upper right corner, is Nikki and Doudrop arguing. And you can't hear anything that they're saying, but you can tell that they're really involved with it. And that was such a distraction that I was not paying attention to what Sonya Deville and Natalya was saying. And I think I said this before, that the more stuff you add to TV, the more people are, distracted from what's going on. Like, you have Sonya Deville cutting a promo in the center of the TV. Now, granted, she wasn't saying anything that was, tremendous. You absolutely must hear it. She wasn't, cutting a pipe bomb or anything like that, and I missed it. But it's like, if there's something going on in the center of the screen, stuff behind it and around it is distracting you from it. So that means that the purpose of this scene was for me to focus on Nikki and Doudrop and not pay attention to Sonya Deville, because she's cutting generic bad guy wrestler promo. And these two is doing something over here that you almost never see, which is, arguing. So that's the downside of doing this. The upside is it does feel like the show isn't over. Like, just because you're not on TV, that means that the show is not over. You could be on camera at any point in time. And that's been one positive thing that I have liked about the Triple H regime, is how, other characters seem to still be around. They're still hanging out backstage somewhere. You see them and you're just, walking around, or you see them arguing, or you see little Easter eggs, like Dexter Lumis's hand, or the burning trash can or something like that. And it's interesting. And you're like, wait a minute, what's going on back there? But at the same time, if something else is going on in the foreground, you might miss it. I guess they're trying to take advantage of everybody having rewind and all that kind of stuff on your TV. But I'm not going to take 2 hours and 30 minutes to watch a 2-hour show. I'm just not going to do that. But that was interesting, at least. And I didn't mind it here because Vince started the whole Nikki Ash and Doudrop arguing story. So now they're finally going back to it. Praise be to Allah that they're going to finally get back to that. Hopefully end it. Hopefully they're going to end it. So the semifinals, Natalya and Sonya Deville lose to Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah. Bayley and her crew were on commentary. Literally nothing special happened. Rodriguez powerbombed Sonya Deville and won the match. That was kind of just it. Bayley berated Michael Cole for the entirety of the contest. Again, not putting any effort into getting over the girls. They just kind of stand there. They just hangers on. I'm fully in the camp now that maybe bringing them in at the same time wasn't the right idea. That probably what we should have done is had Bayley come back in and then maybe brought them in later when you have time to tell stories with them. Again, they're just there. They're just bodies on screen at this point. You got to make it interesting. What are you going to do to make this thing interesting? Speaking of interesting, we got the Sheamus Gunther stare down. This was highly masculine, full of testosterone, and at the same time kind of silly. So Shamey, the Brawling Brutes, they're still going with that name. God, Sheamus, come on. You should been in WWE since 2008. You gotta have some pull by now, man. You gotta be able to get that damn name changed at this point. So Sheamus comes out to the ring. And he doesn't really turn babyface as much as he just banks on the idea that people don't like Gunther. So he starts talking about how him and his crew, him and his boys, that they're gonna start starting fights and drinking pints, that he's gonna win the Intercontinental Championship and become the ultimate Grand Slam champion, something that has never occurred before ever. And I was like, oh, that would be great. That would be great for you, Sheamus. Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther interrupted. They came out to the ring so Sheamus could say whatever he had to say to Gunther's face. And things picked up. Sheamus said that he's got a problem with Gunther. He's got a problem with Gunther calling himself the ring general because Sheamus is the real ring general. That he's been multiple time world champion, Intercontinental champion. He's won all of the titles, but he's also been in the ring and beat the best. He beat Triple H. He beat Roman Reigns. He beat John Cena. And nobody has banger after banger after banger after banger after banger like he does. Then he says, I see a lot of myself in you, Gunther. You got some brutal qualities. Brutal qualities. Brutal qualities. Then he says that Gunther loves the war. I was like, oh, that's strong language right there. He loves the war. And that he's going to win the Intercontinental Championship. He's going to drag the title off of his lifeless body and back to the belly of the Red Dragon. And I don't understand what that meant. I'm guessing it's a bar of some type. So then I thought Kaiser was going to talk. But I was actually pleasantly surprised when Gunther took the microphone. So Gunther, he says that Sheamus is a man to be respected, but the two of them are nothing alike. He said that he's going to chop his chest to bloody bits. I was like, ooh. Then he said that he was going to break his body, break his spirit. He's going to break the man nobody thinks can be broken. He's going to break Sheamus and retain the Intercontinental title. Very intense, very serious business here. And very serious business here then turns into comedy hour. As Ludwig Kaiser is standing there, he's not paying much attention when Butch decides to sucker punch him. And so Butch Butch just fired off on the guy, just knocked him on his ass. And so those two are fighting. You know, they're rumbling over there, and Sheamus and Gunther are staring at one another. They're not moving. And then the hilarious thing about this whole thing to me wasn't even that the fight scene was happening behind them and they weren't selling it. It's that Ridge Holland was clearly just standing there like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Like, he was just you know, like, like, what do I do? What do I do? So he finally jumps in once it seems like Butch is in some trouble. And Kaiser and all these, is fighting both of these guys by himself. He's throwing them over the barricades. I mean, they're just really going after it. And I was like, what on flipping earth is going on here? The whole time, Sheamus and Gunther don't move. And finally, they hold their guys back. And the crowd is now chanting, let them fight. After they've already fought, you know, these guys are kind of like, okay, we're done here. So Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser, they take their leave, leaving the ring to Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes. I love this segment. This segment was amazing. Now, I don't know about the whole we're going to fight and you guys just stare at each other. Not so sure about that bit. You know, it just seems a lot of very unrealistic, especially when you got a guy the size of Ridge Holland just standing there looking like a goddamn fool. He just like, It wasn't like he was standing there not paying attention. He was clearly watching them fight, but wasn't sure. It was like you see a little girl playing double dutch and she's not sure when to jump in. That's exactly how Ridge Holland looked during this fight scene. He looked like, do I jump in now? Wait, now? You know, like just get your ass in there. But it was amusing, and it fit the Butch character because that's something he would do. He would definitely start a wild brawl, you know, for no apparent reason other than Ludwig Kaiser is a douchebag, and he did his Hollywood shit today, especially when Gunther was talking, as he, you know, literally was selling it with his body language and everything. It was great. That dude is tremendous. So they put some heat on Gunther and Sheamus, even though it's just these two guys want to beat the shit out of each other. Now we've set the stage. You know, they're going to have a match between Butch and Ludwig Kaiser next week. That ought to be fun. I guess there's some information I guess I could discuss right here. For instance, there's a lot of talk of Butch getting his name back. So apparently he's not going to be Butch for much longer. He's eventually going to go back to being Pete Dunne. I don't think it matters, to be quite honest. I think as long as they don't change the character too much, because Butch is already more over than Pete Dunne was. You know, Pete Dunne was respected and he was a tough guy to that NXT audience, but he's not really. But you can see that WWE, their audience are still responding to the guys Vince was pushing. Like, you still get the tiny balls chant for the Miz. Ciampa literally doesn't get anything. He's the workhorse. He's the guy on the team, but he doesn't really get those responses. Like in, you know, the Baron Corbin Ricochet match, people are still chanting bum ass Corbin at Baron Corbin. You know, there's almost no real interaction with Ricochet. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit difficult for us to transition out of Butch, who got far more out of this character than I thought he would, to be quite honest. I thought the Butch was dead in the water, but his performance of the character has been very good. And I don't see how we're going to meld the two, where he's going to go from Wild Man Butch to, I don't know, Bruiserweight Pete Dunne. I don't know about that. Maybe we could take some of the elements, maybe even the name, you know, and if that's all you care about is the name, like we got to have the name as if this fucking matters, then I guess so. Just call him Pete. Who gives a fuck? You know, Pete Butch Dunne or whatever, or Pete Butch or Butch Dunne or whatever you want to call it. As long as they shut the motherfuckers up and they'll stop complaining and whining and wanting everybody to get their name changed, you know. But ultimately, it was a fun segment and I enjoyed it. All right, let's see what else we got left. I guess the last thing is the New Day. So the New Day come out there. Oh no, I could talk about this. Shayna Baszler. There's a Shayna Baszler vignette, which was very nice because Shayna Baszler wasn't on TV this week. I'm guessing she was on the second taping, which I'm also guessing that Liv Morgan is also going to be on the second taping. So the vignette was very nice. It did a great job of putting her over. She didn't do voiceover on these, which is an interesting choice. I don't know. I don't know if I like the. Wait a minute. Did she do voiceover on these? I think there might have been some clips of her audio, but I don't think there was like original voiceover. But at least they did something to make people care about her. And is it the bare minimum? Yes. But is it better than nothing? Absolutely yes. So they are trying to, get people to buy into Shayna Baszler. It's going to be a very hard time for me. But, I would take some time to complain about Liv Morgan not being on this show. But since I'm not a really big Liv Morgan fan, I'm okay with her taking some time off to heal. And, that's kind of the excuse you can pull is she wasn't on the show because she needed some time to heal. All right, fine. All right, but Shayna Baszler not being there doesn't make any sense. She should have been in the building. Just if for nothing but to explain to people why Liv Morgan won't be there. She's not medically cleared to show up. She's not even going to be medically cleared to get to Cardiff or whatever. Now, we finally do have to get to New Day. And this is truly trash. New Day is still feuding with the Viking Raiders. They come out, they're being real somber, talking about how they watched the Viking Raiders burn merchandise, bootios, and t-shirts and such. And maybe it's time for the New Day to go away. So the Viking Raiders show up. They said that they gave them proper warrior burials, and here they are again. They didn't take the hint, so now they're going to have to come down there and show them how much they hate weakness and how pathetic they are. So they come down and they kind of bully Kofi Kingston, who backs up. They try to bully Xavier Woods. He's in a wheelchair because, he's apparently a Professor X. And when they turn their back on Xavier Woods, because there's no honor in beating up a man in a wheelchair, he's got a pair of kendo sticks. And they went to town on the Viking Raiders on those kendo sticks. And I just said, look, this sucks. It sucks. It's not good. The New Day is so boring. They're super boring. And so is the Viking Raiders. They're boring as hell, too. I don't know, man. It seems like the Viking Raiders are just wrestler guys, man. I just don't think that the Viking Raiders is working. It's been a while, too, man. It's like, and that's the thing, I hate to double back for like the fourth time, but when they were in NXT, they didn't have to do any character stuff. They just got to do Viking Raider stuff, and that was it. And the Viking experience. Oh, that was an all-timer. I forgot all about that until just this very moment. What an all-time terrible idea. The Viking experience. Boy, they shockmastered the fuck out of these guys. No wonder people can't get behind them. Everything they do sounds like that movie Role Models. I don't know if you guys seen the movie Role Models with the guy who played Stifler in American Pie and the guy who played McLovin in Superbad. They were in this movie, and the kid who was in, I don't know, I forget what his real name is. He's like 50 now or something like that. But he was McLovin in Superbad. He was into live action role play, like Dungeons and Dragons and shit like that, out in this field. Like, that's how the fucking Viking Raiders sound every time they cut a promo. They sound like somebody playing live action role play. We are Vikings doing Viking things. Don't you see our Viking weapons? Don't you see our Viking clothes? Everything is Viking. You're like, oh God, please. No more. I don't think I can take anymore. Like, you guys suck. You guys are awful. You're terrible. And New Day, you're just fucking boring. You're boring as hell. You're doing bad TV. You're not doing anything interesting. I would love it if like New Day would do something interesting, but apparently we ain't got that far yet. We can't force them to become interesting yet. None of these fucking guys. So we're stuck with it. We're stuck with what we're stuck with. So now they're gonna have a Viking rules match, whatever the fuck that is. Where it's probably just another variation, a Vince McMahon marketing gimmick that's basically no disqualification of sorts. Hooray! Another Viking Raiders New Day match. This time with no rules. Hooray! I'm not interested. I know a lot of people suggested there's going to be some call-ups and some debuts and stuff on this show. There were none. There weren't even any teaser vignettes for anybody or anything like that. So I'm guessing a lot of that stuff is going to happen after Clash at the Castle anyway. Like, why would you introduce new characters now when you're still trying to get over some of the characters you just introduced? Like, they're still working hard to get over Hit Row. There's no need to add new players to this game. But speaking of Hit Row, I did enjoy Los Lotharios being a part of the Maximum Male Models thing. Again, I think they fit the gimmick perfectly. They should, I don't know if they should become members, but being affiliates sounds fun. Like, Maximum Male Models could easily be 3 or 4 different tag teams put together. Los Lotharios, Pretty Deadly, and Masay and Mansois. Like, you could easily do all of that, and it'll all work because they all have similar gimmicks. But Los Lotharios is fine. I like the Drew McIntyre stuff most from this show. The main event was okay. It's hard to get into the match when you know it's probably going to be long and there's no real reason to doubt the finish. So main event was the tournament matches fell short. I didn't care enough about anybody in the tournament. I don't care about those belts anymore. You know, like, I just don't care. It's hard to get me to care about something at this point. So, but let me know. I'm very invested in the Intercontinental Championship match, though. I'm all in on that. I'm all in on Roman and Drew, too. Unfortunately, I have to work that day. So, I'm certainly going to be fucked in trying to avoid spoilers until I get off. And then fucked even further as I'm going to have to try to watch the show and knowing I got to go to work the next day. So thanks a lot, WWE. And then after that, because the next day is AEW All Out and NXT, if I remember correctly. I'm fucked that entire weekend. I may not get to NXT until that next Monday because it's going to be on in the middle of the day. So I may not actually get to watch NXT until Monday, which will be my next day off. So that's going to be a tough ride, but you know, I'm a horse. I can figure it out. But what did y'all guys think about this SmackDown? You know, did you like it? I love the vignettes. I love the character work they were doing. Again, that stuff was great. The promos were really good. Not so much on the matches, though. The matches, guys I don't care about. You know, even some of the storyline stuff I just didn't care about. But like, share, I'm about to say surprise. Like, share, surprise. Like, share, comment. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.